Action.
Thank you very much for coming back, for joining us here. This is part 3 of Salt of the Streets, episode 134. My name is Donovan.
I am Cupcake Cousin.
We are
I'm Colin.
here. Cupcake Cousins are here to play hug attacks and yummy snacks on a sunshiny day. And then it's going to be a sprinklicious time. It's cousin time. It's going to be a sprinklicious time. It's cousin time. That's in the song ends and they're in the next room.
So happy right now.
That's it. So
we're gonna need some sprinklicious cousin time because it's about to get fucking terrifying up in here.
Yeah, we'll have a sprinkle party afterwards. Dax will tell you all about it.
Sweet. Sweet.
Yeah, Jordan makes these things. She'll call them scrappy bowls, which is just like just cake scraps and then leftover buttercream, and she'll throw some sprinkles in there, you know. So she'll make one of those. And Dax will sprinkle party.
Oh my god.
The boy loves sprinkles. He's obsessed with sprinkles.
Bro, okay. So if there was gonna be a bakery that will open up at some point in time,
if there was to be one.
This is an incredible business opportunity because that does happen on a commercial scale, obviously, right? And so if you are able to find a way to shape the, what do you call them, sprinkle cups or
Scrappy bowls.
Scrappy bowls. If you are able to make like scrappy bars or put them in some kind of cool shape.
Yeah, well,
and
that's
then you can sell them
essentially
for half the price of a regular whatever the fuck, and then boom. You just have free inventory like that, and people will love them.
And that's kind of what you know what a cake pop is.
Yeah,
that's kind of what a cake pop is.
That's right.
It's kind of like the cake pop is kind of like that, except it has
not as pretentious.
Yes, yeah, it has cousin times. You said that's really funny. Yeah, so the scrappy
bowls. You listen
to
Jordan? You listen? I got ideas.
The scrappy bowls are lit. I think if someone could come in and order a scrappy bowl, you know, that would be a thing that you could. Because she's gonna, it's from like when you make
awesome.
when you level a cake, you know, it's just the top of that.
Oh, dude, yeah.
So she'll put it in a bag, and I will eat it over the sink like a rat. I'll just eat the tops of the cake. It's horrific. It's horrific the things that I do. And yeah, so upon occasion.
Oh, dude, can you imagine?
Scrappy bowl.
Take a scrappy bowl.
Yeah.
Put them just put it in a cup, right? And then put some some froyo on it.
Ooh, shit.
Bro. Yeah. And then some rainbow jimmies on top.
That's what I'm saying. Sprinkle party.
That's right. Who knows what jimmies are?
I know what the fuck a jimmy is.
That's
Jimmy
right.
is a very particular type of sprinkle.
It is generally rainbow sprinkles exist, but jimmies are chocolate sprinkles, right? At least back in the Northeast, that's what they are.
I don't know about that. I believe, to me, the jimmy has to do with the shape. It is the rainbow, longer, like rice-shaped sprinkle. That's what a jimmy is. I don't know. Jordan would know more particularly if they're specifically the chocolate sprinkles. I think
that's just the New England thing. That was when I was up there. They had all these cool like ice cream shops and stuff like that, and 7 to 9 months out of the year they're not open because it's fucking freezing outside. Nobody cares. But during the summertime, they're all popping, right? Dairy Queen only open seasonally up there because
Michigan too. We went to Michigan in like March and it was closed. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, there's other shit you can buy there, and they're like, no, really.
No, they're the old school OG ones, but. Yeah, it was something I learned over there. I was like, I'm going to go over and get a chocolate sprinkle. If you say chocolate sprinkles, they know you're a fucking out-of-towner, and you're not one of them. And if you say, I want some jimmies on it, they're like, all right, cool. Then you get chocolate jimmies.
Okay.
But otherwise, rainbow jimmies don't exist. That's just rainbow sprinkles.
Right.
Apparently.
Yeah.
They're bougie. They're a different kind of bougie up there.
Oh, you don't even know about bougie sprinkles, bro. Jordan's her favorite sprinkles. Yeah. I can't remember the brand off the top of my head. It's some type of word, fucking happy or like some shit like that. That's just like the brand of sprinkles, but they come in like a tall jar like that, like a spice,
like almost. A tall spice jar.
Yeah, and they come out with like new designs all the time. They have different shapes in them. Like fancy sprinkles. I think they think that's what they're called. But
I gotta say this though, right off the top, fuck a hard sprinkle.
East Coast thing, she said.
Yee. So. Fuck a hard sprinkle. All sprinkles should be like that Jimmy style confectioner sugar softness.
I don't really like sprinkles. Like Dax is obsessed with them. He'll eat just sprinkles. Like he'll take that as a treat. Like I'll just give me a couple of sprinkles. He's super into it. He'll eat one at a time. He loves the crunchy.
Dude, do you remember the TCBY days?
Yes.
in Silverdale, right? That
Yeah.
was like the first froyo place
Right.
that was around before all these bougie motherfuckers moved to town. That's
It's always open. Froyo is always open
It
here.
is.
Fuck the
It
East
is.
Coast. Froyo is always open here.
That's right.
It could be snowing. You could still go and buy Froyo.
well, it's a weird business model now. It's a bar. You walk in and you just fill up a fucking cup, no matter how fat you want to get. Just do whatever you want, throw whatever you want, and then they weigh the bitch at the end, and then you pay. Didn't be the way it used to work.
Yeah.
But it's
Fancy
always been my
sprinkles.
thing, man.
There you go.
I'd go super plain Jane. A lot of times I still use it. I just do like the vanilla with some fucking rainbow jimmies on it. But you got to have the rainbow jimmies involved. Because that's what I need.
I'm way more about the Froyo than the toppings. You know.
Yeah,
I like to eat all the
I
different
just want the
kinds of
stuff.
Froyo. Like I like to try the different kinds. I'll get
Oh,
most.
I'm basic, bro.
I'll get
I'm
most
basic.
of the flavors.
I don't even fuck with chocolate most of the time.
No.
I am a vanilla dude.
I like to try all the different fruit ones, like the bitter ones and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All of them fucking things. I try all that shit. I'll even if I don't think I'll like, I'll put
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit in there to try it.
I will say
I
this,
love
though.
the Froyo.
If I'm into the world of the ice cream, though, I don't fuck with the fake vanilla, no French vanilla. No, you need the one with the seeds in it.
Yes.
That
yeah.
that actually look like a real life, like you scraped a fucking vanilla bean.
Yeah.
That's where, even though they don't, but at
Right.
least they look like they
You
do.
wanted to pretend.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to pretend that I want fancy vanilla. I just like vanilla. It's not that I'm like opposed to anything else. I like a good vanilla deal.
Yeah.
you
I'll
know?
eat plain vanilla ice cream. I'm here
It's
for
legit.
it. Yeah.
You know, that and mint chip. That's where it's at. Mint chip is, I want that green shit.
That's
you know?
really funny.
Yeah, mint chip, nobody fuck with mint chip, all right? Please. Don't ruin it for me.
Just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone. It doesn't have to be green either, by the way.
Um,
Mint's not, that's not real.
Let's first start with. Oh, before we go on-
Which belligerent party
Yeah,
should we start with
before we go on, I
first?
want to ask everyone to like, subscribe, comment on this. Obviously, you're here. Thank you for joining us. We have the YouTube Salt of the Streets, Instagram Salt of the Streets, patreon.com/Salt of the Streets. We had the article dropped yesterday. The review preview dropped today for the book club. We had the beer show live stream last night. So we have all this fantastic content that's going on. Go there, subscribe, help us make more better content just like this. This particular segment is brought to you by JP Bakery, just like we were just talking about. If you're in the local area, you can order stuff. If you are somewhere else, you can order English muffins and things like that ship well. Those are no problem at all.
And can I just say this too? I want to put out a special.
Yes.
This segment
Yes.
is also brought to you by our latest and greatest patron. You know who you are. You're in the chat. We love you forever.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the newsletter. Yesterday you should have got obviously on the Patreon and also an email. I believe Patreon sent an email. So hopefully you enjoyed that. So let's talk. Let's talk about DeSantis first. Right?
Okay.
And first, let's talk
that's a
about
soft entry.
how fucking NPR is ass.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I meant to cue this up before. Excuse me. Before we went into this, I have one example that I can find for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to vamp for a minute, DeSantis had 3 lawsuits going on, and I'll pull up this thing about
Okay.
NPR.
Well, I will vamp on DeSantis real quick because
Yeah.
he's been getting a lot of shade lately about his time in Congress voting against hurricane aid for Hurricane Sandy relief up in New Jersey back when Hurricane Sandy hit, which I sat through BT Dubs. That was not a fun time up in when I was living in New York. And a lot of the corporate press coming after him because he voted against that aid. As it turns out, he had good reason to at that point because they had already voted for specific aid at this point, and this was basically a block grant that could have been used for anything, and he, fuck him, but he wanted some strings attached to it. He wanted to know what the money was going to be used for and how it was going to be used, and so he voted no against it, and they're trying to use that against him now. Joey Behar on whatever stupid show that she runs, I think she's MSNBC, one of the biggest wastes of space in the corporate press and one of the biggest spreaders of mis and disinformation, depending on how you want to define it, that exists in the corporate press. She's coming after him and trying to say that, he doesn't necessarily deserve aid now to go help the people of Florida. That is, we haven't touched on at all. Completely devastated the entire state of Florida, damn near, particularly down south. After Hurricane Ian, not of Timcast IRL fame, but just regular Hurricane Ian, as it struck last Thursday, I believe made
so,
landfall
yeah.
on Thursday, and then turned around and surprisingly came back and fucking hit North Carolina, I believe, to yesterday. I think it was like
Couldn't tell you.
it was either a trop storm or a small, either a tropical storm or like a Cat 1 hurricane at that point. But all reports at this point report minor damage at this point. But as far as Florida goes, lots. We don't even know the number of dead right now, and it's been pretty devastating. It's going to take years and years and years to rebuild Florida at this point.
The sponsor, Deborah, is JP Bakery. It can be found on Instagram at leggings and aprons, all one word.
Yeet.
And you can see some of the examples of the work, stuff like that. Said English muffins is one of the things that are done to the bakery, and they ship.
They're problematic.
They ship very well. Ship very, very well. They will retain all the freshness, all everything. So check it out. Leggings and aprons on Instagram, Facebook as well, I believe. Check it out.
Yeah. The only problem with the English muffs is that once you partake, you'll never buy a fucking store-bought English muffin again because they're basically cardboard comparatively.
Yeah. So I only have one audio clip from NPR because it really is about corporate media as a whole, right? And we'll talk about the example later in the grab bag of we'll find the ad for the reality TV show, right? And we'll see if we can find a video ad. If not, then we can for sure play the audio one.
Yeah.
But so this is one example from Start Here when they were talking about the updates between Donald Trump and the FBI, and the special master said that they had to decide, or they had to tell people which documents he had or had not declassified, right?
Yep.
And the editorialization that Start Here provided is the judge says that rules that apply to everyone also apply to Donald Trump. Right, that's one of their no fucking shit, obviously. So, and then there's this example here that this was from Wednesday from Up First.
Did you queue up a timestamp and everything?
Yeah, I did. This
God,
is
you're legit.
NPR talking about Ron DeSantis, and so we can talk about how relevant this editorialization is.
DeSantis, of course, is a likely Republican presidential candidate. DeSantis said FEMA and the Biden administration, Disney and Universal are shutting their theme parks today and tomorrow because of concerns about the storm.
What's the state government's response to this been thus far?
Well, Governor Ron DeSantis has been holding several briefings each day, updating people in the storm on the risks they face and how the state's responding. It's a much different tone than what we've seen over the last year when he's kept up this steady drumbeat of criticism of the Biden administration. DeSantis, of course, is a likely Republican presidential candidate. DeSantis said FEMA.
Yes, okay.
God, what the fuck does it have to do with anything? We're talking about Hurricane Ian, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking about people dying and the damage and what Ron DeSantis is doing as a leader to try and keep everyone up to date, that he's doing multiple press briefings a day so people can understand what's going on and have current updates.
Oh, yeah, he's better than Cuomo.
But it's relevant that over the last year he's talking shit about the administration that is fucking everybody over, right? That's super relevant right now.
Super.
Not how good of a job he's doing leading the response to the hurricane, not the fact that there are pictures of literally dozens of utility trucks lined up in the wait for when the hurricane is gone so they can restore power, right?
Give us the green light.
Nothing to do with that. That's completely irrelevant. What matters is that he has talked shit about Joe Biden for a year now. What a fuck. How could he? Doesn't matter that I just said that multiple times a day he is telling people what to do, where to go, and exactly what the fucking state government is doing to protect you and help you. It matters that he's talked shit about the government for a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, they bury the lead because they say right after, that he is a presumptive, what did he say? Possible or likely Republican nominee. Right there. DeSantis bad now. We've officially labeled DeSantis bad because there hasn't been any kind of announcement. There's been a bunch of water cooler scuttlebutt from people like us that are in the commentariat and
not
people
Ron
within
DeSantis.
Corporate Press. Not a fucking word.
Hasn't formed an exploratory committee. Hasn't said a goddamn thing about running.
He's running for governor. He's running to be reelected for governor right now.
Fuck, dude.
And they just said, they said right there that he is the
presumptive Republican nominee.
Which is, I don't know where you get that. I don't know where you get that because even within Republican circles, that's a question. People want him. But it doesn't mean he's going to do anything, man.
That's assuming that we can disqualify Donald Trump from office first, and then the only option they have is Ron DeSantis, because who the fuck else are they going to pick?
You know what?
Republicans are so fucking stupid. Who else are they going to pick besides Ron DeSantis?
It's
fucking ridiculous.
We got to remember this clip because if
these people do not care about you, they don't fucking respect you. They think that you're stupid.
Yes.
They think you are stupid.
This is the work from home class. That's the intellectual work from home class that is better than you, and they know it. And their job is to tell you everything you need to know. And if you disagree with them, then you're wrong and you're bad and you're probably a fascist. But
definitely, just like the woman in fucking Italy, right?
Yes,
just like that woman.
She's super fascist.
Yep.
I mean, her party, years and years and years and years and years ago, was fascist. Okay, well, we have communist parties here in Seattle. How is that any different?
She said good things about
family.
I mean, come on,
God,
dude.
Man, that's tough.
She said some semi-positive things about Mussolini one time. I bet that you can't look through any of the writings from any of the people who work in corporate media or politics and find them quoting any type of unsavory figures at all. Not even fucking one, right?
Like the super racist guy, Karl Marx?
I mean, come the fuck on.
Or Stalin?
Yeah,
or
I'm sure. Not even one time. There's no questionable figures in our politics, right? There's nobody here who... I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to go down. It's so ridiculous.
Like Joe Biden, who was against gay marriage only 5 minutes ago.
That I'm not even going to attack it because it's so ridiculous that they're going to... Last week, we talked about the actual legitimate left-wing authoritarian fascism that is existing. We talked about it. We highlighted it.
Yep.
We had a whole segment about it. I just wrote a fucking article about it. I'm not even going to do it. I've spent too much time over the last 14 days. I've spent too much time, too much energy over the last 14 days. Too much emotional labor has been exhausted on my behalf over the last 14 days over highlighting the authoritarian left-wing fascism that exists in this country to even legitimize the claims about the woman from Italy who bears no fucking relevance on our country at all. I'm not even going to do it. So we're going to be done.
So what you're saying is basically Ron DeSantis is going to run for president in 2024.
Yes. NPR told me so. And right now he has 3 lawsuits going on. There's the civil lawsuit from the Texas sheriff.
Yep.
Probably will go nowhere.
That's stupid.
A class action lawsuit filed in Massachusetts from a bunch of the immigrants that he flew there.
Well, by an activist group that roped these people into it that are using them as political pawns to file a lawsuit. Yes. Okay.
And then there is...
Just to clarify.
Thank you. And then there's a Florida representative who is accusing Ron DeSantis of misusing funds because... And the language will have to be parsed out, you know. This Florida... Have you heard about this one?
I have not.
This Florida representative claims that the text of the legislation or the funding says that the money is for flying immigrants from Florida to another location. And because they were flown from Texas to another location, he's violated, you know, the Constitution or whatever the fuck. And thus he should be sued. Yeah. Yes, that's really... I'll read it. We'll do that article.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll do that article. So let's see. Yes.
These people...
Here we go. State spending.
It is almost amazing that they have somehow or other been able to, like, climb into power. Because these people seem so incredibly dense.
It's awesome.
It's so wild.
Yeah, so like I said, he's got 3 lawsuits going on right now. A lot of this stems on he still maintains and has read on air.
Oh yeah, he read the statute,
the agreements, and the agreements that people signed.
Yeah,
like he has them. And I'm sure they have copies of them because it's the fucking government.
Yeah,
they have redundancies out the asshole is to fuck people over.
You got to remember, he is the smarter version of Donald Trump when it comes to like doing
the politician Donald Trump.
Yeah, like the politician Donald Trump, the guy that like tries to make the wild political moves and do crazy shit, and you know, if you will, for lack of a better term, political stunts.
Right.
He has all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed before he does this type of shit. And we've seen that time and time again. There's no reason to think that he would have just been Donald Trump. You'd have a question and be like, you know, maybe he did this shit willy-nilly. You know, who knows? He's not a 4D chess player. Ron DeSantis is like, oh, we're going to do this thing and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But Let's cover our ass while we do it.
Right.
Let's do it. I went to the Naval Academy, bro. I know what I'm doing here.
So this is an MSN article. I saw a picture of him in his naval uniform, like when he married to his
Ooh,
wife. He
bro.
was super handsome.
Good looking dude.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah, I don't know about his wife, but he's super handsome. Good for him.
What do you mean you don't know about his wife? She's a classy looking lady.
In the picture that I saw, it was not good.
I mean, she's.
It was not good.
She probably looks better than Ted Cruz's wife, right? Hello.
Dog. Ted's wife is a dog.
Here's a dog. But then Ted Cruz, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. I just don't understand why they recruited immigrants from San Antonio to send to Martha's Vineyard. And I don't. I maybe just like because there's so many of them. Maybe just because it was an easy place to access them.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
why
have
the
a
Texas
feeling-
thing comes in either.
Well, I have a feeling because they don't. If there is one place in the world that has some immigrants to spare, it's going to be Texas. So, because the immigrants that make it to land in Florida are generally coming from Cuba and stuff like that. And there's things in place that say once you hit ground, you got asylum because you're coming from Cuba. It's a whole deal. So like it's a different type of immigrant that's coming across like that. And so I just have a feeling that, because Ron DeSantis essentially cares about the sanctity of this country. He has problems with borders all the time, and he relies heavily on the federal government to interdict that, Coast Guard primarily, off the shore of his state.
Yeah.
So he probably is going, yo, wheelchair, how can I help? What can we do here? I'm just saying.
You know what?
He's Hot Wheels, bro.
You know what?
Hot Wheels.
This article is from MSN.
Listen, I can't wait. He's got a
And-
debate coming up with Beto pretty soon. I can't wait to see that
I
shit.
like it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's have a kickflip competition. Play skate.
We'll play skate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know who's not winning that one?
Beto?
Hot Wheels.
I don't
Because
know,
you
man.
can't ollie, bro.
I don't.
That's all I'm saying. The physics of this check out.
We're getting canceled.
No, it was last night. Shit, I know what I'm watching tonight. Then queuing that
there
shit
you
up.
go.
I
There you
bet
go.
that because I bet you he just wipes the floor with that kid. He doesn't know. Beto's an idiot, man.
Yes.
He can't. Like Kamala is kind of a low bar on the IQ level, but
Yeah.
Beto is, I think, below that.
The
It's
best.
got to be good.
The best Beto thing was when Ben Shapiro was covering him, and he said, "Kickflip, bong rip, Beto's in."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That is so good.
So good.
That is so good."
Yeah.
So this the MSN article. This is about Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis violated state spending when he spent Florida dollars to fly Venezuelan migrants to Martha's Vineyard. A new lawsuit says. A Florida Democratic state senator has sued to block Florida Governor Ron DeSantis from orchestrating any more flights carrying migrants to other states. Jason Pizzo, a Florida Democratic senator representing Miami, filed a lawsuit on Thursday night alleging that the governor violated the law when he tapped into the $12 million set aside for migrant transport in this year's state budget. Last week, DeSantis took credit for chartering 2 planes to transport 48 Venezuelan migrants from San Antonio, Texas to Martha's Vineyard as a political stunt in protest of President Joe Biden's immigration policies. Pizzo says that his lawsuit that DeSantis' actions were in violation of state spending because the budget stipulates that the funds may be used for, quote, the transport of unauthorized aliens from this state consistent with federal law, unquote. The flights originated in Texas and made a brief stop in Florida Panhandle before heading to Massachusetts. The governor has said that numerous migrants settle in Florida after crossing the border. Last year, the federal government sent 80 flights carrying migrants into Florida, according to Politico. State lawmakers, including Pizzo, overwhelmingly voted in favor of Florida's budget. He fucking voted for it. Some of the money for the program came from interest earned on money sent to Florida from Biden's America Rescue Plan. That's so awesome. Senator, it's so good.
Layers, man, layers.
Senator Pizzo never misses an opportunity for his 15 minutes of fame and is challenging an action on an appropriation he voted for. DeSantis communications director Taryn Fensky told Insider, "This is the second lawsuit so far over the governor's controversial actions. On September 20th, a Boston-based civil rights firm representing a group of migrants and an immigration nonprofit network sued DeSantis, alleging migrants were tricked into boarding the flights with false promises of jobs and other transport." And I just don't get when he showed you and showed everyone the piece of paper that they signed, how you can continue to argue that. And also how you can't.
That's why they say
also,
alleging.
Also,
Because
how
it's
you
just somebody
can't
said.
say how you can say there's no jobs there. There's no way. There is no way that there is not 48 open jobs in Martha's Vineyard. I don't believe you. I don't care if you've lived there your whole life. I don't fucking believe you. There's definitely 48 open jobs there. And some of them were fucking kids. There's definitely 40 open jobs there. Definitely. And no fucking doubt.
And I would guarantee you that the jobs that are available are very low-paying jobs that most people that live on Martha's Vineyard don't want to take.
I wonder what a good applicant for that job would fucking look like.
I do know.
Maybe someone who isn't supposed to fucking be here anyway.
It's also illegal to hire illegal immigrants, so, obviously you can't do that. That is the one thing, like, because none of these people are legally asylum seekers, right?
Right.
Because they've gone through no process.
Right.
So they're not legal. They're not legally asylum seekers yet. So technically, they're just illegal aliens who cannot, by definition, have employment in the United States of America. We've just fucking gotten rid of this whole concept altogether at this point. It's gone on both the left and the right. By the way, it's all just migrants, migrants, migrants. None of this. Nobody is coming at this at a semi-reasonable, commonsensical way, because we do have laws in place where, if one of these local stores gave these guys a grocery bagging job or something like that, guess who's coming after them? The fucking feds are, because they hired an illegal migrant and they're taking advantage of these poor, oppressed people who have just come here, blah blah blah, because now you're hiring illegal migrants. It's none of that. No way you square this does any of this make sense? We've lost the fucking plot completely here.
We're double arresting you because you're not woke either.
Yeah, it's so bad, man. As a nation, we have lost the plot on the border. With this, with the wave of illegal migration, we have lost the plot completely as a nation. Nobody is talking about this in any manner that makes any sense at all, that is productive in any manner.
There's just about zero people who are looking at this issue on a country basis of like, this is not. It's not a Texas issue that there's a border crisis. No, that's not Texas's fault, and that's not their issue to deal with.
That's not the Texas border. That's the national border.
It's an American border that happens to be at the bottom of Texas.
Yes.
Right. That's the border of the United States, and those people don't stay in Texas. Some of them do.
Some of them do.
As Ron DeSantis and all these fucking corporate media shills have highlighted, that's what they were going to go anyway, right? When they were all making fun of Greg Abbott for sending these flights to New York and to all this shit before the governor or the mayor of New York City was complaining, right before he's crying about shit. They're like, you're an idiot. That's where they were going to go anyway. And he's like, yeah, that's the fucking point. That's the goddamn point. They're hanging out here for way too fucking long.
Yep.
We don't have a place for them. We're just going to take them up their own way. I'm willing to put Texas funds to that, right?
Yep.
They're all making fun of him. As soon as Ron DeSantis does it, it's a huge goddamn problem, right?
Yep.
It's all, the world's going to fall apart, and it's a terrible thing that you're doing.
It's bad.
So, yeah, and the plight of the leftist leaders of the cities that are like, we're not prepared to handle this, like Texas accommodates into their budget every year. Plus, we're going to have probably a million illegal immigrants that we're going to have to deal with. So let's make sure that we have funds to deal with that.
Yeah, or two.
No, that's not how they, exactly. And nor should they have to. That's not how it's supposed to work.
No.
It's silly. It's to say the least,
Yeah.
It's just a ridiculous claims being made that I have very little, if any, sympathy for. We're unprepared for this. Shut the fuck up.
So is everybody, bro.
No one should have to be prepared for this. That's not how this is supposed to work.
Oh, man. It's so bad. At least Governor Wheelchair Abbott.
You are terrible.
I know, but I mean, for real though, the dude he's been doing literally like the best I think any governor could.
Greg Abbott?
When confronted with this problem.
Yeah.
The dude, I mean, he's doing everything he could possibly do, and at the end of the day, he will only be hurting his state if he allows the federal government to just let them hang the fuck out. Yeah. He has to do something for his state, and to his credit, he has absolutely done that. I got a lot of problems with Governor Abbott revolving around law enforcement and, when we, how he covered for a lot of like the law enforcement fuck ups over at Uvalde. Was not okay with none of that shit.
Yeah. And,
he's kind of, but whatever, we'll put that stuff aside. What he's doing with the migrants and stuff, I got nothing but good things to say about the guy. He's, and of course, when it's compared to Beto, I mean, come on now. he just rolls right over him.
You're terrible. You are terrible.
But he does, though. He just destroys this guy.
You are terrible.
It's your problem. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah.
That is a common.
Yeah.
That is a common thing to say. Yeah, he's a uniparty guy for sure. But as far as fighting back against the federal government's human trafficking, he's doing pretty good. I'm a huge fan. Make these people eat what. Make these people put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
Do it. I was like, eat sausage. No, that's not a thing. That's like making
Eat
sausage.
Eat sausage.
Yeah, my idioms are all fucked up.
I like it. So we'll see how this turns out for good old Ronnie D.
Ronnie D.
So let's give some talk about some Ukraine.
Okay.
Right? A lot of stuff happened over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm
almost like I thought about this last night. Like where do we even start, right?
So the last time, well, you go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, to me, like the most, I think, key point being the pipeline explosion.
Yeah.
Is probably where shit really picked up and started to escalate, right? That I think is probably a good starting point, unless, of course, there's something else that you were thinking of.
No, I figured we would just kind of run through the events that happened before that, because there was a couple of things that happened before that lead into the explosions.
Mm-hmm.
So last time we were here, we talked about the Ukrainian counteroffensive, right? The enormous circle jerk that happened as a result. I'm not sure whether or not we mentioned the fact that the targeting data that was used to start that was provided by the United States.
Yes.
Right?
I don't think we did, but yeah.
But it's just to further underline the influence and the role that the United States is playing.
Dare I say
affirmatively involvement, yeah.
Hey.
I would argue direct involvement
Yep.
in the war in Ukraine, right? There was an enormous devaluation of the Ukrainian dollar as opposed to the American dollar. I try to talk to Larry about that and get a little bit more information. To me, the most basic thing I can think of is to try and bring more investment into their country, just because the Ukraine is struggling so bad. They devalued their currency by like 20% compared to the American dollar. So I think it's just to try and bring more investment into their country through their own currency in dollars. So it also ties them more closely to us. After that, there was the new offensive that was announced right before the explosions, right? There was a new offensive that was announced by Russia, where they called it a limited offensive or something like that, and they said they were going to call up 300,000 ex-servicemen, is what they said. We have heard reports of all kinds of people being drafted since then. They said they were going to only call up reservists or whatever, but we've heard...
this is the partial mobilization.
Right, the partial mobilization, yeah, exactly.
Just still ongoing.
Yeah, which is still ongoing, exactly.
Yeah.
So they said they were calling up 300,000 people. Who knows really what the numbers are? No one knows how many people are dead. No one knows how whatever. I think the breaking points, is always like, it could be fucking tens of thousands of people. I don't think there are tens of thousands of Russian people, like Russian soldiers, that have died in 6 months. Because
it just seems
that
like a
type
weird
of
number.
death, how do you hide tens of thousands of bodies? From that many reporters.
Yeah, and not to say that it's not impossible to stem the information flow, but it seems highly improbable that you could.
When they're saying it's some 6,000, which is almost definitely not true, but from 6,000 to tens of thousands, that means you think that it's over 20,000 people.
Yeah,
over 20,000 soldiers that have died on the Ukrainian side in that long, but not even anywhere near that on the Ukrainian side. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
Even if you're talking about, the Russian military is fucking way shitter than we thought that it was, and they were talking it up all this time. Even with that, I don't see how you parse over 20,000 Russian soldiers in 6 months since February.
It seems like a lot.
I don't think that seems like way too many. That's
a
more
lot
than we lost in Afghanistan.
Yes, it is.
That's way too many.
Over how many years?
Yeah, way too many. So I think it's almost definitely more than 6 or whatever they're saying, but 20,000 plus seems like a very high number.
Yeah.
For them to have lost. I don't know. We likely won't know for years and years and years, and even then it will be a best guess estimation based off of graves and...
Because that's so fucking many people, man.
So many people.
Understanding that the theater of war is massive. I mean, it's an entire eastern and southern front of a nation, but that's a lot, man. I mean, even over 6 months, 20,000. I mean, that is constant death. I mean, these people are, mind you,
The Pentagon says Russia has lost 70,000 plus troops. I just
70,000?
Russian invasion forces in Ukraine have sustained between 70 and 80,000 casualties in 5 months of fighting since February 24th, according to the new Pentagon assessment.
Well, casualties being injuries
Right,
and whatnot,
right.
like you might be able to believe that because of like explosion damage and
Right.
shrapnel and shit like that. But that's still so many people,
As of
man.
Monday, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense claimed the Russian casualties included 42,340 eliminated personnel. That seems like so fucking many, dude.
Yeah, it does. That's like wanton death right there. I mean, that
How many soldiers has Ukraine lost? Let's see if they're being fucking
2,000.
honest about-
I'm curious about this one.
This is from okay, so that one's from June.
We will never know, Deborah. That is right. We will
3
never
days
know the
ago.
actual number. And if this doesn't speak to like the fog of war throughout history, when you're reading, accounts of like ancient battlefields and shit like that, like nobody on any side throughout human history has really realistically accurately reported how many casualties of war there has ever been. Nobody.
Yeah, okay. So
That's just never been the case.
this article is from August 24th. And 13 million displaced. Tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians may have lost their lives. So let's see. Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces said this week at a public forum that Ukraine has lost 9,000 military personnel. The Ukrainian military has also claimed they have killed or wounded 45,200. That's... How the fuck is that possible?
45,000?
Compared to 9,000? How the fuck is that possible?
So that is I'm trying to do the math on that. Let's just do a calculator. 9,000 versus 45,000.
Meanwhile, the UN Human Rights Office has documented nearly 5,600 civilians killed in Ukraine during the conflict, but believes the actual toll is much higher. You're telling me
That's 5-1.
You're telling me that the Russian military has died 5-1 compared to civilians?
I don't believe that. I'm sorry, I don't
How
believe
is that possible?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I don't believe that, and neither does Deborah.
I don't see how that is possible. Those numbers don't make sense.
No.
And I believe it's at least on par with whatever Ukraine has lost. And their number is likely deflated compared to what it is. So let's call it an average of 15. 15 even fucking feels like a lot, dude. But I guess if Ukraine is saying 9, if they're admitting to 9, it's probably a little bit more than that, right? So even let's say 12, right? I could see an even number, but I don't see how, if you're talking about essentially the same people, right? Because Ukraine, half of their force, whatever portion of it is actual military. The other portion is also random fucking guys that they armed up with American service rifles and sent out to the front lines. That's the same thing you're talking about with Russians, right? The same thing people are claiming about Russians, that they were conscripted and they were given maybe 2 weeks of training and then sent out to the front lines with old Russian weapons. So what, the difference is that the American weaponry and offense is so much better than the American military or than the Russian military that they've lost, you said 5-1? Get the fuck out. You're saying that Russia is pulling out all the stops using cluster munitions, using incendiary munitions. They're breaking all these war crimes. They're doing all this terrible shit.
But still 5-1.
But they're still 5-1?
That just...
How does that work?
Yeah. How does that work? Like, the math doesn't add up. The math doesn't add up in any measurable sense, man. And, yeah, Deborah, we're going to talk more about this as we get into the segment, but...
Right. This part was not planned. I had not thought about the numbers and stuff. I did not have.
But it's good to examine.
But I don't. That doesn't make any sense.
No,
that
it
makes
doesn't.
no fucking sense. Those numbers that we just read out.
Because originally, when the original kind of mobilization that was going on during the Trump administration, when they were lining up on the borders and stuff like that, there was like reportedly an estimated 125,000 troops throughout, along the border regions and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like, the numbers seem too big. But then again, do me a favor. Google United States Standing Army. How many people in the United States Standing Army? I'd be curious what our published numbers are on that. Because the problem is we might just be lacking context here, right?
See, in the standing armed forces, 1.35 mil.
Damn.
Active personnel.
Damn. That's a lot of people.
And the reserve is just under 800,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's third. Our standing is third.
Okay. That's still, man.
Our budget is first. Surprise,
Amen.
surprise.
Yeah. You know,
782 billion.
Raytheon,
We out here.
Raytheon don't support itself, all right?
No.
It needs our taxpayer funds to go to that, all right?
China has the biggest active duty, 2.2 million, and
Yeah.
India right above us at 1.5.
Interesting.
It's a good thing that India and China don't like each other.
It is a very good thing.
It's a good goddamn thing that they don't like each other.
They get out there and literally their armies will have skirmishes where they beat each other with sticks and rocks and shit.
Ooh,
Because the minute you fire a gun, it's different.
India's paramilitary is 2.5 million.
Paramilitary.
Yeah.
Is that like irregulars, if you will?
I would imagine so, yeah. This is just like a category thing.
Everybody's a fucking militia member, baby. I like it. Move to India. Let's do it.
Paramilitary service people who belong to organizations such as Canada's Canadian Rangers or France's National Gendarmerie, which are military-like but not formally part of the armed forces. So
Interesting.
militia members probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how you count that for America, you know?
I don't think we do. We call them terrorists.
Oh, shit.
I mean, if that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, okay, because it says United States paramilitary 0.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Swish.
Yo, if you count the paramilitary, we be fucking out here,
Yeah.
though.
Every motherfucker with a gun. That's who it
Yeah.
is.
That's
Come
why
tread
you
on
can't
me,
count
bitch.
it. That's why you can't
exactly.
count it.
That's why
I think we call them terrorists. You gotta clip that. That's good. That was way too good. Yeah, that's really good paramilitary.
Timestamp. I wish I had
That's
voice
really
controls
funny.
over that.
One day there will be a person sitting in the corner whose job it will be to write these things
Yeah.
down.
And no matter what his or her name is, we're gonna call them Jamie,
Yeah,
just because it'll be fun.
that is really interesting.
So speaking of Jamie, to kind of preface everything we're about to talk about, Dave
Yeah.
Smith's episode recently of the Joe Rogan's experience.
Yeah, I've not finished it yet. I just started
Oh,
it
it's
last night.
so good. It is
It's
so
kid,
good.
bro. I only had 2 days to even show prep.
I know, bro. That's we have very different lives.
Yeah.
His episode was fantastic. We'll put it that way. Probably the best I think he's ever done it. He was on fire from the minute he started opening his mouth.
Yeah.
But he did an entire breakdown, probably 15, 20 minutes of like how we got to this point in Ukraine, right? And it stems, it goes way, way, way back, but essentially, you could pick up the pieces and really start rolling with the contemporary issues with Ukraine, starting when we supported the coup back in the early 2000 teens, right? And we installed this new, more pro-West government and stuff like that, when the tensions between Ukraine and Russia really, really picked up. And it's really, the writing's been on the wall ever since then, and it's been the game plan ever since, which ultimately has led to, I think, everything that we're seeing today. Without diving into everything, we'll eventually get to it, but just to kind of give us a point to shoot for, maybe. Yesterday, I believe, or Thursday, Zelensky formally submitted like an expedited application to become a member of NATO.
Yesterday, yeah.
And that's how we got to. We're that's the point where we're at.
NATO expansion,
which after, working back through time, after Russia just formally annexed 4 different regions in Ukraine, so now that puts a problem. That puts
after
an
some
international
referendums.
after some referendums, which are
gunpoint referendums,
which questionably enough, ever since the coup back in the early 2000 teens, those places have always, that's been a contended area for a long time.
2 of them for sure. Yeah.
That entire Eastern Bloc area, the old Soviet bloc area, it's always been in fucking question who they'd rather align with, the West or the East. It's always been a question.
We talked about that when this very first started.
Yeah. There's a reason when they annexed Crimea that that there's not ongoing fucking giant civil war out in the streets in Crimea. There's a
Right.
reason for that. It's
Yeah.
because, whatever, it's fine. Some people were upset and they fucking left or died.
Yeah.
But, I forget where we started with this because we kind of got sidetracked. But we started with the mobilization, right?
We're working through a timeline. So we talked about 300,000 people being called up.
Yep.
At the same announcement, Putin redrew the boundaries for the Russian nuclear policy, talking about where they're
during a
changing
public
it,
statement, correct?
Right, changing it from responsive to a territorial engagements and infringements are going to be the new standard. And this is obviously matched at the same time with the referendums that were done and the redrawing of kind of the Russian borders. And
also
now,
important to note that Russian nuclear doctrine is very different than ours.
Yeah.
We have a very long chain of bureaucracy and in a sense, like a lot of different hands have to touch the nuclear football before the nukes fly.
Right.
Not
Before
the
they
case in
crack
Russia.
open the plastic.
Exactly. Not the case with Russia. It's Vladimir Putin or whoever is in his seat has sole control. He can hit the button and go. He can give sole authorization.
Yeah.
Which exponentially increases the danger at this point.
Right. So it was at the same time that the referendums were being held. There were videos of soldiers walking around with the vote takers, so they're armed. There's all kinds of shit. And it was right after that the explosions happened in the Nord Stream 1 and 2. Both pipelines. Number 2 was never operational, never fully operational. There just was never shit flowing through it.
Yeah.
Number 1 was operational, but had been completely cut off by Russia in response to sanctions and stuff like that.
Yep. I did a beer show on it. I think that was the first live stream, maybe.
That's right. So there are now 4 confirmed leaks in the 2 pipelines combined, and they're just off of the coast of Denmark, Poland.
There's an island over there. I'm gonna
something
pull it up.
like that. Yeah, it's a NATO country.
We
but
should
it's,
have a Google map
but it's
open
not
anyways.
in their waters. It was very strategically done.
In international waters.
Yeah, there's all kinds of questions about exactly who did this. Right,
Bernhold.
There you
Bernhold.
go.
Let's
So
go.
there's a lot of questions of exactly who did this.
So the
right?
pipelines run more or less right around through here at this point. Because they come in up here and then they take a dive south, boom, boom, and then continue on.
Speculation still on who or why the pipelines were attacked because no one knows for sure. Denmark, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
There are obviously people assumed, me including immediately, that it was Russia. And then because I didn't even think, why would they be doing this? It's just like these fucking assholes. They're just out here blowing shit up.
And remember, too, that Russian has an oblast right here in Kaliningrad, which this little section right here
It's their closest
is
naval
stuck.
base.
It's a small little land piece stuck between Poland and Lithuania, both of which are NATO countries. That is Russian foreign sovereign territory.
Yeah.
Sovereign territory, I mean. And so that would be their closest access to said pipeline.
Yes. And so obviously I assumed many other people at first that it was Russia. And then I thought more, why would they do this?
That's interesting. I didn't think that right away.
Immediately assumed. That's just, didn't even think about it. I'm just like, these fucking assholes. It's like they're just blowing shit up. They're just doing wild shit out here. Didn't even think about it. Just immediately assumed.
That's so funny. I assumed the exact opposite.
Yeah, no,
I was like,
immediately,
why the fuck would the West do this? This is dumb.
Yeah, no, and I didn't I didn't even consider why. That's just what I thought. I did no more thought than that. Other than
Like,
it's just,
fucking Russia.
These guys are crazy.
Fucking
yeah.
Putin out here doing crazy shit. Him
yeah.
and his frogman.
Yeah, just these guys are crazy.
Little did they know it was actually Greta Thunberg.
Right. So when I thought about it more, the only real reasons I can think of that Russia would do this, a show of force, right, to show other countries we can do this at any time. You have infrastructure under the water. We will blow your shit up if we want to. There's nothing you can do to stop it. You had no idea this was going to happen, and we did it.
That's very neocon of you. I like it.
The other side is like a morale boost for their own country. They have this new offensive. They need to kind of boost everyone and let them know or let them feel like they
I got more beers out in the fridge.
You're fine. Let them think they can win.
That's about the most legitimate argument I think I can pull as to why Russia would have blown up their own pipeline. Mind you, it's not solely owned by them, but it is.
They invested a vast majority of the money, and now it's just a huge waste of steel in the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah,
It's
which
just
how
totally gone.
It's gone at this point, right? It is the primary shareholder in the ownership of the pipeline is Gazprom, the state-owned, Russia-owned gas company.
And there are affiliates in other countries.
Yeah, which I mean, basically, the people like in Germany and shit like that
Everyone
all
who
own
gets
kind of
gas
interest.
from it, yeah.
But again, they already had the power. They shut the shit off already. Like, why would right there? The argument to that, I think, can be easily dissuaded by saying, why would they remove their best and easiest, quickest access bargaining chip into getting what they want?
I agree.
That's crazy.
I agree.
That would be a crazy move.
Yes.
But if you put that on balance with the question of, if I need to drum up support from my people, from the homeland, from the motherland, I can blow this thing up because I've already shut it off. I've already cut my losses. We're already going to war. I've considered that we're at war for a long time. Fuck it. This is the drop in the bucket at this point. Let's get some support by calling this, what he did, an act of international terrorism, and maybe I'll get some support, and we'll get some.
Right.
This will add to the morale. It'll boost the morale. I don't know how much weight I put into that argument, but it's about the only argument you can.
I agree.
Conceivably make to Russia doing it themselves.
Right.
Like, I don't get that.
So past that, United States. Right. There's
Pause button.
Yep.
The other aspect to this too, the day it was blown up was the same day that the Baltic pipeline that runs from Denmark. Shit, I can't remember. Into Poland. Kind of runs north-south into Poland, came online the same day, which their intersection point was like the Denmark pipeline runs this way, and obviously the Gazprom east-west, north-south, and the explosions were probably 50 miles north of said crossing.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing I thought about at that point. Maybe it was just a fucking international fucking espionage. We're going to blow this up so that then no matter what happens, they have to come to us. But that I still think is a stretch anyways, because whoever's doing it has to know that this is an escalation that might end their fucking existence as a company to begin with, because this only goes one way at this point.
And there's so there's a kind of a third aspect of, you're talking about a separate group, a clandestine group doing it for any number of reasons. Corporation, most likely, because that's like the third most powerful group in the world.
So I would put Pressel
right, and that could be, like you were talking about, money that they have invested because they've already stuck money into the Polish pipeline. If there's money to be gained from this, again, because the Polish pipeline. So
it's important to add too that when we talk about this, it's a natural gas explosion. This is a natural gas pipeline, so this is liquid natural gas that when it's not compressed like that, it turns into vapor, kind of like a propane type of deal, right?
Bubbling up out of the pipeline.
So yeah, it's boiling up out of the pipeline. It's not like an oil spill type of deal that's going on. But this has been like the single, like, I don't know if it's the single largest, but I know it's in like the top 3 largest, like, releases of greenhouse gases, so-called, into the atmosphere that has ever happened in the history of the world. So, like, it's
just
huge deal.
The pressurization of the pipe to keep it from like imploding on itself.
Yeah, and it's still that's a long ways, man.
Yeah,
that pipeline goes for hundreds of miles.
It's a big old pipe, right?
Yeah, it's a big old. I think it's a steel pipe with reinforced concrete. Yeah, I think around it. But it's a lot of gas, man.
I wonder what the diameter of the pipe is.
We're gonna go with 24-inch. I don't know.
So I think it's probably pretty big, right?
You could put, depending on the, especially if it's steel. I mean, you could put a lot of compressed gas through 24 inches of steel pipeline, like a fuck ton. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious. I would be very curious because you'd be surprised, like how big the diameter of a pipe, and like it's some crazy civil engineering type physics and shit like that control that stuff. But at the end of the day, you're talking about liquid natural gas that is under pressure that gains exponentially when it's depressurized. So I mean, you could put a shit ton of usable energy into a 24-inch pipe.
48-inch diameter.
Damn. Gotcha, bitch.
48.
It's a 4-inch fucking pipe, or a 4-foot fucking pipe.
Big old pipe.
That is a huge pipe.
Yep.
With compressed liquid natural gas.
Yep.
Ooh. It's a big boom boom too. Yeah. Will Wallace is out. He says hello again, laters. Okay. Hi bye. Thanks, Mr. Freedom.
Each pipeline comprises 2 pipelines.
2 pipelines.
Yeah.
Each pipeline consists of 2 pipelines?
Yes.
Okay. I don't understand that terminology, but
Each pipeline is it's 2 pipes. It's not just one.
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I lost that place though. So
I've been thinking. I think tonight I'm going to watch me some James Bond pipeline movie. It's called The World Is Not Enough. Pierce Brosnan. It's all about oil pipelines.
Each pipeline comprises 2 pipes, denoted A and B. Each of the 4 pipes being approximately 1,200 kilometers or 750 miles long, with approximate diameters of 48 inches. Total capacity of the 4 pipes is 110 million cubic meters per annum, 3.9 billion cubic feet per annum of natural gas.
Okay.
So
I would love to know what an atom is, because then I could have some basis of reference. But that's fine.
a lot.
People smarter than me know.
Yeah.
And is it just me? Because when I thought about this explosion, right? I go, how? Because we're talking about liquid natural gas. How is this not like a chain reaction explosion? Because you have massively flammable materials being exploded.
Probably
Just because it's underwater, I would imagine that would help. And the depth that it's at probably helps keep it more compressed.
And it was probably strategically
Placed.
the size of the explosive was probably designed strategically to just blow a hole in the cement and the steel, because I would imagine
these are reported as leaks.
Yeah,
it's not like catastrophic failure, right?
Right, due to explosions. So this is just the Wikipedia. And it says, on the 26th of September, the NS1 and NS2 pipelines experienced multiple large pressure drops to almost zero in international waters attributed to explosions. Let's see, multiple large pressure drops. Let's see where this takes us.
Interesting. Cause no fucking idea. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about this.
No doubt there were explosions.
Evidence being
That's
they
really
registered on the Richter scale over in like Sweden and stuff.
Yeah.
Right, and everyone's like, "Whoa, shit! That leads to an explosion." I don't know, man. I understood the pipeline was not in use and was only pressurized. Check.
Yes.
But we're talking, like you said, 12,000 miles or whatever of pressurized pipe.
It's just a lot of leftover shit.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the initial reports were it was going to leak at the rate it was going to for about a week.
Something like that, yeah.
So the pictures are fucking fascinating too.
Weird.
Like to see the ocean boiling like that. It's a weird deal.
Yeah, so I would imagine that if you blew a hole in the cement, then the steel would rupture just from the pressure. So you probably only have to use so much explosives, just enough to just destroy the concrete.
Yeah.
And
you're talking like a shockwave and stuff at that point, because water carries,
And it's at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
So, or the bottom of the sea.
Bottom of the sea. There's a Little Mermaid reference in there somewhere.
Under the sea.
Under the sea.
That's
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the West. There was a naval research exercise that happened off the coast of this island back in June.
Isn't there always?
I believe so. That was something that people bring up as into the whodunit aspect of things.
Plus, like the Polish MP, that posted the picture on Twitter of thanks U.S. So who knows? We probably
he finally deleted that tweet, by the way.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I guess his old lady is also kind of a higher up in the international relations, foreign policy realm. She's like, bitch, what are you doing? Take that shit down. Are you trying to start a war here?
Yeah, who knows on that front? Yesterday, Russia officially recognized those 4 Ukrainian provinces as Russian, said they're going to soon be issuing currency, and they're going to have elections for members of parliament, and, they're going to convert everything to Russian as opposed to Ukrainian. I don't know what the fucking difference is. That's my entitled American ass, but... So
yeah, it was the Luhansk, the Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and the Kherson
Yeah.
region.
So all those
I've
areas
been practicing that for days.
are now considered Russian by the Russians. Ukrainians also obviously don't agree with that. I read this morning that Russia has begun to pull its troops out of those areas, right? We just started talking about, and then in response to, like you said, Ukraine announced that it's going to apply for expedited membership to NATO. I believe we're both on the same page of this is part of what got us here in the first place, this NATO expansion. This is not going to help, especially with the Article 5 covering or whatever. If anything does happen in Ukraine, then we're all fucked. So
I think I got the charter right here. Look at that.
No, look at that. Look at that. See, Article 5?
Article 5. The parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against all of them, and consequently, they agree that if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the right of individual or collective self-defense recognized by Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, will assist in the party or parties so attacked by taking forthwith, individual and in concert with the other parties, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area.
Oh, so not only are we supposed to respond, we also have to respond in the way that Ukraine feels is the best to do so.
Hashtag that's what's up.
That's nice.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice?
Such action as it deems necessary.
Yeah.
That's so whatever Ukraine feels is necessary. So
Even
though Ukraine doesn't have a nuclear weapon, right? If Russia uses a nuclear weapon, a tactical nuke, a limited nuclear, whatever, right? Because we just read just before this that now the Chechen leader has called for Russia to use
like
just 3 hours ago. Has called for the use of limited nuclear weapons in Ukraine. That obviously doesn't mean he's going to do that, but people are talking about it now. They're calling for it now that Russia has changed their shit around.
That motherfucker's crazy,
They're
by the way.
wild in Chechnya. They're
dude.
wild out there. Crazy.
And he's about besties with
those
Putin,
are woodsy Russians. That's what the Chechens. They're woodsy Russians.
Yes.
Them fucks are wild.
Some of the best fighters in all of the UFC come from like this type of area in the world.
Yeah,
these are
crazy.
hard motherfuckers.
So that's the last shit that we want to be dealing with. Even if their equipment is ass, we don't want to be dealing with that shit.
No, dude, you're fighting banshees. You don't want that.
Right.
You know, we have pregnant uniforms for they thems.
So what that means, Article 5, is that if a limited nuclear weapon were to be used in Ukraine, even assumingly in these 4 regions of Ukraine that have now been claimed by Russia, even though Ukraine still considers them Ukraine, assumingly if they're used there, because as we just said, Russia is pulling its troops out of those 4 regions, right? The only pretext of which I can assume, not because they're happy that they've reclaimed these areas, but because they don't want their guys to die because they think a bigger fight is coming, right? That's what I would assume personally.
Okay. I think it's more of a draw tactic to me.
You think it's to draw the Ukrainians in and then
which might lead to nukes, but you know.
And I think either one is
because now this is like, you know, because his rhetoric at this point is, you know, territorial integrity. Now I've drawn the line. These are ours. They belong to us. So I'm gonna pull my troops out so it looks like we're vulnerable, and then you're gonna move in, and now you've attacked Russia for the first time in this conflict. And now this is a defensive conflict in our eyes because we've claimed this territory for us because you Nazi motherfuckers have been oppressing these people. We've liberated. And now you're trying to take it back. Now we're on a defensive stand, so all bets are off. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
And I think, to me, the only reason I go with the pretext, right, for use of nuclear arms is because I think if Vladimir Putin is going to do that, he's already decided he's going to do it. He's already constructed a circumstance in his head of not just territorial infringement, but like this. If this happens, if I can pull this off, I'm fucking launching them. I'm doing something. You know, I'm gonna drop a something, or on the way out, I'm gonna leave a something. And if someone gets close enough to it, I'm just gonna drop it off. Like, so I think he's already decided of when the circumstance of when he's going to do it.
He's just writing the story of how he gets to the end that he's already preordained.
Yeah, so that's why I think that, and I think that he recognizes by sheer fact that he just had to call people up that if there's going to be a bigger fight, he needs to save as many people as possible, because there's somewhere between 9,000 and 57,000 troops that he's lost over the last 6 months. Who fucking knows how many it really is, right? Somewhere between 70,000 casualties. Who fucking knows, right? Somewhere between 9 and 57 thousand.
Yeah.
He's going to need those bodies for a bigger fight ahead if this isn't going to work. And I don't see a nuclear weapon being the end of all this. You know, I think it's just going to continue this fight in a different area. So my concern would be a limited nuclear weapon being used somewhere in Ukraine, Russian disputed territory, because there's still fucking fighting going on there, and Ukraine then saying, "Yo, we got to drop one. We got to put one over there because we're, you know, on the verge of NATO or whatever, and we got to get this done." So I don't know how long an expedited membership to NATO takes,
or if they'll accept him or not.
Yeah,
But at this point, man, the rhetoric coming out of NATO it feels like they're chomping at the bit for this. Like, it's not their response to the pipeline action.
you read the letter.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it was
not here. You read it to me though.
You know, any actions against our critical infrastructure will be met with, you know, force, essentially. I mean, it was pretty cut and dry to the point, and it's not. And that was before the concept of this of Ukraine coming into NATO really even became a serious conversation, because they hadn't entertained it. But at this point, fuck, man. There's a really great book by an author named Ken Follett, who writes a lot of like historical fiction type stuff. They're massive fucking tomes, like this big. It would take 6 months in the book club. We'll put it that way. They're massive. But the first one is all about kind of like the world entering into World War I. And it's all these different parties that kind of, you know, all over Europe and shit like that, right? And the common theme here is that, like, there's no way we're going to go to some fucking war. We're not going to do this. I understand what just happened. There's Franz Ferdinand, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. But there's no way. Nothing's going to happen here. And I'm like, I'm getting a lot of those same vibes now, man, because certain powers are chomping at the bit. There's certain people being like, no, that's never going to, that's just crazy. This is not what we're doing.
We're
in
a real rough place in America right now.
We are.
A real rough place.
We are.
And there's a lot of money to be made in a war in another country. Not only in people making money for the military, because definitely more people are going to sign up, right? If America's involved in any type of conflict, any of the fucking fools that you can get to sign up under the patriotic whatever, right? It's
whatever
for America.
Propaganda you're going to get.
Yep, all the fools you can get to sign up. They're going to start making that money. They're going to make more money because they're getting combat pay because they're overseas. All the people that are going to have to get hired to the defense companies to make more weapons, make ammunition, make all the things, right? All the support personnel that have to be brought on that are still going to make more money. There's lots of money to be made for a war when we're talking about. When we're staring down, 8% inflation or something like that. When we're staring down more interest rate hikes, 7% home mortgage rates,
and the division within the United States as well. I mean, a lot of times,
nothing unites
I'm going
the
to add
country
on
like
to this,
a common
but
enemy.
Yes, nothing unites the country like a common enemy.
Donald Trump didn't
but
work.
also, it is also important to remember that Russia had a civil war during World War I that destroyed the Russian Empire.
Yeah.
There's nothing that says there cannot be a civil war within the bounds of the United States if we're in World War III.
No.
In fact, I think it probably would, because we are not a bunch of fucking blue and yellow Ukraine flag drinking, propaganda people anymore. We all, there's a lot of people that are like, dude, this is dumb.
Especially if there was a draft,
Yes.
If it got wild and there was a draft here and people who don't agree with the war, are starting to get called up.
And I think this is important. We're going to touch on Deborah's point that JVP said. Russia's not going to lose this conflict right now. No, this is
the minimum of what they're walking away with is these 4 territories at a minimum.
Yeah, at a minimum.
Because they've staked their claim now. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
We had the vote. I don't care if you don't like it. We had the vote.
And at the beginning of this conflict, when there was a similar but less landmass involved at that point, when there was a similar offer on the table to essentially make the peace deal, walk away with, let the Donetsk region go to Russia and then walk away. Western powers, particularly through the mouth of Boris Johnson at the time, said, don't do this. And at this point in time, Ukraine is not going to let this sit. And so if Putin would, if in this case, you know, let's just say, for the sake of argument, if this was it and he was like, hey, man, I got what I'm good. Just leave it alone now. I'm fine. Or hey, everybody walk away. You know, we already blew up your pipeline, so we already fucked you anyways. But,
right.
So let's just walk away from this. Ukraine's not going to stop.
There's Ukrainian leadership pushing for offenses in Russian-controlled territory.
People are out for fucking blood, dude.
They're asking for long-range missiles so they can lob into Russia.
I mean, it's not going to end any way that's good. We'll put it that way, because Russia's not going to stop, because Ukraine's not going to stop. And Russia's not just going to sit there and take it on the chin. If Ukraine is still pushing, they're going to push back, period. You could flip a coin and say maybe if nobody fired another shot and everybody just walked the fuck away right now, things might be okay.
Yeah.
They might be. It's arguable either way. But when the conflict continues, because the Joe Biden already said, actually, I think I got a good clip of him saying it. Let's listen to this and then we'll continue on. Let's just do this.
I want to also speak to Mr. Putin's remarks this morning. You know, America and its allies are not going, let me emphasize, are not going to be intimidated, are not going to be intimidated by Putin and his reckless words and threats. He's not going to scare us, and he doesn't, or intimidate us. Putin's actions are a sign he's struggling. The sham referenda he carried out, and this routine he put on. Don't worry, it's not on there if you're looking. Okay. The sham routine that he put on this morning, that's showing the unity and, you know, as people holding hands together. Well, the United States is never going to recognize this. And quite frankly, the world's not going to recognize it either. He can't seize his neighbor's territory and get away with it. It's as simple as that. And they're going to stay the course. We're going to continue to provide military equipment so that Ukraine can defend itself and its territory and its freedom, including additional resources that the Congress is going to give me today.
That's that $12 billion you talked about earlier.
$13 billion more dollars to help the Ukrainians defend themselves and fight back. And we're fully prepared to defend. I want to say this again. America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch. So, Mr. Putin, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Every inch. And I've been in close touch with our allies.
Doesn't he just instill confidence?
We're announcing new sanctions today as well, that including new authorities to sanction anyone who provides political or economic support to Russia's fraudulent territorial claims. And I've been in close touch with our NATO allies who are united in our resolve to take on.
Yeah, so you get the picture. Everybody's itching, dude. Everybody's itching. I did my whole beer show last night on like the fact that, you know, this is great. This is the guy you want running this fucking conflict, by the way. He's going to make good decisions, but at least JFK during the fucking the Cuban Missile Crisis was all hopped up on amphetamines and was like, go, 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 go. This dude's wiping drool off his mouth in the middle of a fucking mumbling, you know, quiet speech. But this illustrates that these people are itching. They're ready to go. So there is no, you know, particularly with this new fucking, if NATO does something really, really stupid, and it's like, yeah, Ukraine's now part of NATO. That means everybody that isn't a part of the Russian Federation now is in NATO. That's done. And it's over, and then we're all going to fucking war. And on top of that, who else is going to join in that war? Is it just going to be NATO versus Russia?
No.
Hard no. Who else is getting involved?
Definitely China.
Definitely China's getting involved.
India might be involved.
Yeah, and we still flip a coin on which way they're going to go. But
China's in, North Korea's in.
Yeah. Who got really pissed off the other day when Kamala Harris fucked up and said North Korea we were in alliance with the Republic of North Korea.
North Korea got upset?
They got real pissed. Yeah, they were not happy with that. And I think they had like 5 nuclear missile launch tests or whatever this week. Shit's going real good, man. People in charge are doing good shit. You know, it's real good. The only thing if the worst happens and war with Russia kicks off with NATO, and that means the United States is involved, it's literally a matter of time before China gets involved. Even though China's kind of how would I put it? It's kind of like the Axis powers in World War II. Like Japan was they're not real with Germany. But at that point, when all the lines are drawn, you side up with somebody, right?
Yeah.
China's not super into Russia and what's going on there. They got their own problems too. But if they had to pick a side, they're picking that side because fuck the United States. Plus, they already got a good leg up on us anyways. And they'll take Taiwan, and that'll kick off an entire war in the Pacific, which will be fucking great because Japan's not going to do so well in that fiasco. But then India's like this odd man out, stuck right in the fucking middle of, two big powers. Essentially, they're on their own. You got the Mideast on one side, which may sit this one out, if you will. Turkey's going to have to get involved, and I don't know if they're going to flip at that point and side with the Russians, but because they're not in a real good spot as far as NATO membership goes. Turkey's kind of a wild card when you look at that, but
wild card.
They are kind of a wild card, and so India's in a tough spot because they got a border with China, they got a beef with China, but also they've been doing a lot of business with China and Russia, and they're not hating that. So it's all going to really come down, I think, to Putin's response to what Ukraine's going to do after the annexation, and what NATO's going to do with Ukraine's desperate plea to join NATO.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to. And frankly, I don't trust the powers that be on either side to make good decisions that avert war at this point. But it's the last fucking thing the human race needs is a modern world war. It's the very last thing we need.
Right.
Oh. So that's fucking awesome. How do you feel about this, man? You feel good? You feel nervous?
About that? No, not good.
You feel
not good
nervous?
about
Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. And the worst part about this whole deal is you can't believe shit anybody says on either side.
that. Right.
I got this. This was a fun tweet I got from Jack Posobiec, retweeted it at some point, but it was somebody claiming that the Russians found an underwater submarine on one of their coasts after the explosion of the pipeline, which it's just fucking propaganda at this point. No, I can't even trust sources coming from the internet now because.
Right, but in the back of the third picture,
there's a
Russian
warship,
landing ship. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fun.
Chilling in the back.
Oh yeah. The naval powers are getting sorted at this point. The German naval forces have deployed, if you will, to the area. Not that the German Navy is anything of what it used to be, but people are getting tuned up. All of our bases overseas, like over in Germany and shit, they're getting all on high alert. Everybody's tuning up for the big luau that's coming.
That's what you think?
That's what I think. It's I don't have a whole lot of hope in this one, man. It's when you look at the decisions that have been made to this point, I don't see how anybody de-escalates or, steps back or steps down or. I don't, man. I don't.
I would have to really consider and think hard. But I couldn't do it on this show. I would have to come back with it and think about a pathway that I could see to de-escalation and in which this doesn't go any further. I would have to really think about that, which says something to me as a political commentator, because it's so easy for us to sit here and postulate about 10 different ways that this could go to shit.
Yeah.
And if there were
How could it go good?
If there were an easy path out of this, it would immediately present itself to us. I mean, after having talked about this as many times as we have, but I don't see any way. Like you said, even if everyone just sets their guns down, it's like, I'm done right now. Everyone's done right now. It's not going to stop. This doesn't stop.
No.
The retaliations, the way that people are going to treat each other, the intercontinental relations are not going to ease themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to get worse.
Yeah. the only realistic thing I see at this point, I've done a lot of thinking about this at this point, is Ukraine has to be sacrificed on the global stage, I guess, at this point. And everybody needs to take a hit on the chin because, you know, if NATO's going to have to say no and the West is going to have to step back and say, you know, at this point we tried and we're not going to kick off World War III, man. I'm sorry. You're going to have to, we got to go to the negotiating table. They got what they want. Let's do this. Let's just talk, bro. We'll reassess later on, but let's talk at this point. And I don't know if I don't trust that would happen, but it could happen. You know, everybody just, you're going to have to take this one on the chin there, Ukraine. We've been fucking you guys for a long time. You know, we did this to you. We can recognize that. But at this point, we're not kicking off World War III, bud.
Yeah.
Because guess who's going to be the first to be glassed? You motherfuckers. Do you want to survive? Walk away. But yeah, good shit. Told you it was going to get dark, bro. This is a tough one.
Oof, dude.
That's why we titled this bad boy World War III, because it's certainly starting to look that way.
Fucking oof.
Oof, indeed. Oof, oof, oof. Let's say, do I have any, like, happy little things in here? No.
Only the next thing was
I don't.
Iran, bro.
Iran is almost kind of like a... I don't know.
Let's hear it. So go ahead, spin it. Let's hear you spin it.
I
Let's hear how it's positive.
Okay. So if y'all watched the beer show last week, I did this. We had the death of shit.
Yep.
It's bad. I know her last name, Amani. It's like Masa Amani, I believe. 22-year-old Kurdish woman that was on vacation in Iran with her husband, or no, with their family, and she was in the car with her brother when the morality police hemmed her up for not adhering strict enough to morality law with the hijab. She was picked up with a number of other folks at that time, thrown in a van, and was allegedly beaten in the van when she was dropped off at the detention facility. She eventually collapsed. It was reported by the hospital afterwards that she had a stroke, and after a number of days in a coma, died. And that kicked off this massive, massive series of protests that we have seen now continuing into its third week. The protests have done nothing but escalate. The Iranian government has continued to kind of poo-poo these things and say it's fine, we're cracking down. They have done their best to cut down on internet service throughout the nation as best as possible.
Starlink, baby.
Starlink activated, Elon Musk said.
I saw that shit the other day. I told you.
That's right.
I saw it.
You saw it in the sky. You saw it in the sky.
Yep. It was like 7:30, 7:45, and we came home from Jordan's dad's house, and we got out of the truck, and we're getting Dax out of the truck, and I looked up, and there was a line of stars all connected real close to each other, and I was like, oh, that's really weird, and I was like, oh my God. That's fucking Starlink. Yep, we had just talked about it. I had just seen a picture of it. I just seen you a video. I just showed you a video of it.
It's wild.
Talked to Jordan all about it. She had no idea. It's like, that's the real shit right there.
That's right.
That's Starlink. Saw it with my own eyes. It was really fucking cool.
It looks like a chain of stars in the sky that's moving really
fucking cool.
Pretty fast throughout the whole
super
deal.
Fast.
Yeah, super cool.
It was dope.
After Secretary of State Blinken got involved, the United States kind of opened up some licensing type of shit and some bureaucratic stuff to allow certain companies to try to get internet in there and all this, that, and the other thing, cell phone services. And then Elon Musk was like, Starlink activated. So I don't know how much that's helped, because obviously you can't use Starlink unless you have a fucking Starlink, receiver. So I don't know how that goes, but
interesting.
Yeah, that the kind of white pilly moment, if you could take one out of this, is that we're going on the third week so far, and it's continuing, right? That's in a regime like Iran, where they usually would just rather shoot everybody that's involved. That's a good sign.
They're not just shooting everybody.
Exactly. And they're
shooting some people.
They're shooting some people. Like, I'm not going to show that video, obviously. That's instant demonetization, or possible pull down territory. And YouTube's already fucking with us enough. So, But yeah, one of the latest.
Like, subscribe, and comment. Share this with your friends.
That's right. Share.
Go to the Patreon. Sign up for the Patreon.
There was a protest taken out front of a police station, I believe today, and the military or the police, it's unclear at this point, just started open firing on the protesters at that point, and everybody ran screaming, and there was a reported up to 17 to 20 some people were shot at that point. But I mean, when you still look, I mean, you could look at there's a lot of videos in like Kabul. I think I might even have some. Oh, this was a point I wanted to make. Actually, this is a Iranian reporter, journalist that is now living in the United States. She used to live in Iran, but the Iranian government now has made it illegal for anybody in Iran to share any of her information or send anything to her because she is sharing all of these videos. But we have lots and lots of photos from her of the protests, all her media appearances, obviously. But, I mean, it's wild. This right here will get somebody shot if they wanted to in that country. For one, you're not wearing hijab. For two, you're flouting your hair around, which is also not okay according to Iranian or Islamic purity law. There's a video in here. This one right here. Something as simple as this. A group of gals walking around with their hair out. One of them having dyed hair, which is also something that is completely verboten. And they're just walking down the street. And you could see some people wearing hijab still, but there's a lot of people that are just like, no, fuck this. I'm just doing this thing now.
Yeah.
And they're not getting shot. That is a plus. That is societal pressure right there doing something within the nation. There's a protest going on out in front of a governmental building right there. Everybody waving hijab around. I mean, it's like a huge deal. So while the death toll continues to rise, obviously numbers are, we have no idea. I've seen numbers from hundreds to 50 being dead. Obviously, who knows what the number is, but it's probably pretty high at this point.
Right.
But regardless, protests continue. And at this point, there's no signs of stopping. I think what it is even factoring in like all the severe theocratical like oppression that goes on in Iran, like I said in the live stream, this is a very modern city. It's a very modern country when you really think about it. Like, people have social media. I don't know if they have TikTok, but I would imagine they might even have fucking TikTok and shit like that. You know what I mean? The younger generation is not just willing to go along with this shit anymore. They're much more activists than anybody in previous generations would have been. And these protests continue to be primarily led by the women and girls in this society. And a lot of their men have stood up next to them and continue this as well. So that is a plus. That's a good thing. It's a good thing for liberty throughout the world, including in an oppressive theocratical regime like that. And so, if there's one thing good going on in the world, it's that there appears to be some forward movement in the Iranian protests.
It's at least possible.
It's at least possible.
I like it.
We'll end on a nice note there.
Deal. Yeah, so with that, we will take our final break. We'll come back in just a few minutes with part 4.
Yeet.
The grab bag, we got lots of great stuff in there.
So much.
We'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around.
Yeah.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat everything.